we were having mojitos. And Andrew said, I've had this idea, and he said it, and it just clicked all of a sudden. It's like, well, why didn't we think of doing that? That's awesome. And I think we discussed the whole thing, how it was going to work, and before we left, this cocktail table, which was this big, was covered in empty mojitos. And it's like, okay, we've got it, boom. And here it is.
I mainly grew up in the Philadelphia area. My father worked for Sears. He was a pilot. And so when he got out of the war and he was working, he had kids. He decided at some point, like, I'm either gonna get into flying and teach my kids how to fly, or maybe I'll get into sailing. And so I was about 9, 10 years old. We had no idea what this was all about at all. But anyway, we started looking at boats and bought a Pearson 30, and I think I was like 11 years old, and that's when I started sailing. We sailed everywhere, went on like long cruises, got into racing, and that's kind of how it started, with a cruising boat. After that, I got into things like windsurfers, lasers, all the dinghies, and so kind of worked my way up through, kind of backwards, right, from the big boats back down to little boats, and ended up in Annapolis. Was a sailmaker for a number of years as well, so kind of threw myself at the sport, so to speak. In 2015, the Italia 1398 was at the boat show here. I had never heard of it. We were walking the docks and looking at different boats, and I walked by and saw this thing. I was like, what is this? It looked different, right? It's kind of a combination of classic and yet modern technology in one boat. So I got on the boat, met Franco, at that time the CEO and founder, and I was like, hey Franco, how long is the boat going to be here? Because I'd like to go sailing. He's like, hey, come back on Wednesday and we'll go sailing. So we went out and sailed around, and some other boat shows were out doing demos as well at the same time. And it was like 5, 6 knots of wind. We were just sailing around everybody. I mean, just literally circles around them, going twice their speed. And I was like, wow, this is, I'd like to buy this boat. So that's where it started, right there. And I actually tried to buy that boat as the boat show boat, but we didn't work out, we didn't get the right arrangement, and I kind of dismissed it at that period of time.
So I met Jeff, let me see, it would have been in 2018. Jeff was here with his family. We had a 12.98 here, which is a boat that's based out of Newport, Rhode Island. Jeff had come to take a look at the boat because Jeff was very interested in purchasing an Italia Yacht, in particular a 13.98.
The key characteristics that I think we were coming to terms with, it was really between my wife Sarah and me, is I wanted something that sailed well. I kind of offered performance, but not really a racing boat, but you could go fast, you could get places, you could be safe in virtually any type of weather conditions. And she wanted, the comfort. She wanted to make sure that, we've got, refrigerators and heat and all of the systems that you would want to be comfortable if you're going to be on a boat for weeks or potentially months. And so when you look at that, there's only a few boats that would really fit the bill, right? And then fast forward a few years later, we were still kind of, looking for boats, what was going to work. And then out of the blue, I was like, I'll just write Franco again. I'll see what does he want to do? Does he want to have a 1398 here in Annapolis? So wrote him an email. He responded instantly. Like 2 days later, he sent Daniele and Francesco over here, and we actually put a deal together and bought the boat, and they built it in 2019.
Jeff actually had bought the 1398 just before our partnership with Italia Yachts had started. At this point, with the relationship being new, we knew to be successful at this, we had to find the right partners to get excited about things with us. Italia Yachts had already had a relationship with Quantum Sales. In fact, Daniele used to work as a sale rep for Quantum in Italy. So that relationship actually kind of started in Europe. When this partnership with Italia and David Walters Yachts came to the shores of the Chesapeake, Andrew was like one of the first guys to look at this boat and say, you got something here.
Fortunate enough really to have met Eric Harland pretty early in my time moving to Annapolis here, and I suppose that friendship developed into partnership, or at least talking about putting together a partnership with Italia Yachts, David Walters Yachts, and so that's what we did. And that led in turn sort of all just talking about what we could do, and it was actual fact that myself, Josh and Eric were down in Fort Lauderdale in the early part of this year, and we started talking about perhaps putting together a documentary of the processes that it takes to put a couple of these races together.
You know, the whole Italia Yacht, the whole philosophy is, you know, a lot of people think that because these boats are out crushing it on the race course, that these are just nothing but thoroughbred race boats. Well, they're actually really more geared towards family cruising. It just so happens they're fast as hell. The Kennedy family, they're out on the water aboard Artemis almost every weekend. You know, people see Jeff out there kicking butt with this boat, but what they don't realize is this is the family's like play toy, you know, that they go and barbecue on and swim off the transom and hang out on the Chesapeake. So the family is getting the enjoyment out of the boat, but Jeff, deep down, he likes to sail fast.
I never really thought about racing this boat. This is really, we're gonna just cruise this boat. But it's quick, right? It's a very, you know, quick, easy to handle, you know, kind of cruise racer. And we thought, you know what, maybe this boat would be ideal for longer distance races. More like destination races, like, you know, start in a place and go to a better place, right? And do it with a group of people that you want to sail with anyway.
We had planned to do last year the Newport to Bermuda race. And that was something we were all geared up for. Everything had been set up, housing, flights, the whole works, the sail plan, the crew was all set up. We were ready to go. And then, of course, COVID happened.
And the pandemic, they just shut it down. So, we were, in a way, we were fortunate. We already had the boat in the water, so we were sailing in March. And then when everything got shut down in Annapolis, they basically shut down the Chesapeake Bay for recreational boating.
And so that kind of evolved into, well, we've got everything loaded up. You know, Andrew's thrown, I don't know how many sails on the boat now. So Jeff from day one knew he was gonna get out there and kick butt in a big race. And so with Newport to Bermuda scrubbed, the conversation began to 2021 and doing the Annapolis to Newport race.
All right, so the Annapolis to Newport race is a little under a 500-mile race. It's done every 2 years. The event has been done since just after World War II. The race starts in Annapolis, right off the harbor, Seven River area, and it goes down the Chesapeake Bay for about just over 100 miles. From there, we hang a left and we head northeast up the coast to essentially Block Island. And you pick which way you want to go around Block Island, and then you enter Narragansett Bay and you finish in front of Castle Hill in Newport, Rhode Island. Jeff has never done, with his own boat, one of these races. He's done Annapolis and Newport before, but he's never done it with his own boat. So he's really much looking forward to doing this event.
I just love competition, right? So I've always I've been pretty much a competitive person. No matter what I get into, I try to figure it out and try to get to the top of the fleet. But this race coming up, I mean, it's a great race. It's probably one of the funner ocean races. It's not long, you have great competition, challenging conditions. I mean, that's what's exciting. It's gonna be, just kind of fun to watch this thing unfold.
Me personally, I've never done an Annapolis to Newport. So it's gonna be pretty incredible. It's gonna be exciting, it's gonna be different, it's going to be, it's goal setting, and once you set that goal, it's like, okay, what's the next level? And we're always going to be looking for that next level. Where do we go from here?
There's no better way to show off what a boat can really do than when it's screaming through a race course. Jeff and his family, they had the 1398 Artemis here in Annapolis. So then they started talking about, well, let's do the Annapolis to Newport race. And kind of along the same time, they said, well, what if we took the 998 and we brought it to my home waters up on the Great Lakes, and we did the Chicago to Mac race too? I got into sailing really with my dad, and I remember being like 5 years old, sitting up on the bow of this sailboat, just rocking on the Great Lakes, jumping overboard, swimming around with the family, and that was some of my earliest memories. So sailing for me really started when I was young, and that stuck with me. I remember going down to the water and watching the boats go do the Chicago to Mac race. And I remember riding my bicycle around Mackinac Island with my dad and my family as a kid. So having the opportunity to now go back and do the race as the owner of Walters Yachts on a boat built by a brand we represent. And not only that, but the race starts on my birthday. So this is just like a culmination of so many cool aspects. I'm really excited about it. I mean, personally, professionally, I'm pretty geeked out.
Chicago to Mac, Chicago to Mackinac Island. This is a very prestigious race. It has been going on for more than 100 years. It is a huge event. It's typically more than 300 boats. It is the largest freshwater race in the world. So it's on Lake Michigan, starts in Chicago, obviously, right off the Navy Pier, and finishes at Mackinac Island.
I can't wait to take our demo boat here, the 998, bring it up there with the crew that we've got, and just have fun. And at the end of the day, that's what this really is about. We're optimistic that we're going to do really well in the race, but at the end of the day, this should be fun. And if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. So I think that's the attitude of the entire crew here, is we're there to go out, sail fast, bond closer personally, and just make this a fun all-around experience for everybody.
The two races, they're certainly, premier events. The Chicago Mac race has been around for over 100 years. The history is steeped up there, and in the United States, it's probably one of the ones to do. It's right there with a Newport Bermuda or a Transpac. It's one of the events to do, and likewise, the Annapolis to Newport race, that's been around for a very long time. And the great thing about the Annapolis Newport this year is there's a very, very big entry list. There's possibly a lot more boats doing the race than there might have been a couple of years ago. Maybe there's a factor with COVID that we haven't been able to do very much, and everyone is clearly very grateful that we're having this opportunity and that they're laying the race on. It's going to be great to see that spectacle of all these boats getting started. And so the races themselves, they're steeped in history, and we're cognizant of that. And we're very grateful that we have the opportunity this year to go and do them.
So we're going to head over to the Quantum office and we're going to take a look at some of the new sales that Andrew has ready for Jeff to pick up here, and some of the sales we have for Vichingo, the Italia 9.98. And Jeff, what's Andrew got over there right now for you?
Yeah, I think a couple sales that are left that we haven't picked up yet are the storm sale, so a storm jib and a trysail, being lovely orange color, I'm sure. And then we'll get those fitted to the boat. Also have a J, call it a J3 Plus, which is a smaller jib with a shorter luff length. Also the heavy air sail that meets the requirements for the safety rules. That's what we're going to look at today. So you know, going over to to the loft, you see a lot of things over there that are going on. It's always a very busy place. You've got people coming in, coming out. You've got sales that are coming in for repair. You have new sales being delivered. There's designers in-house, so you're going to get to meet a lot of people at the Quantum Loft that are part of the full circle of what makes this happen. So we come in and we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously we're doing a couple distance races here. So the sails have to be built to handle offshore conditions. They also have to be built for use at night. So there's a lot of things technology-wise and experience-wise that we're going to be seeing in these sails that become full encompassing of what we're trying to do here. Yeah, nice to see you.
What we got?
All right, well, we've got some sales to take a look at from last night, from the 998, from our Wednesday night excursion, and then I think we've got some new sales here for Jeff.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're ready to go. It's very important to build that client relationship, to be able to discuss what the plans are for the boat, what the plans are for the ownership or the team, whether they're doing some racing or whether it's just purely for cruising, but to try to get a feel for what the owner of the boat looks to do. Then we can kind of look at what the different packages are available.
Yeah, the Quantum guys have been great. Andrew knows what he's doing. He's very helpful. They were involved even before we had the boat. They were working with the guys at Selden for the mast and making some changes in what we wanted in the mast, a little bit of engineering here and there differences. And then we ordered the first set of cruising sails, which was a couple of kind of carbon fiber with a heavy taffeta cover on them. And then as we got those fitted to the boat, minor tweaks here and there to make sure that the sails fit the mast shape. And then we ordered the racing sails, but instead of guessing on the mast, we went through and measured every single element of every curve. So when these were built, they just fit perfectly. So it was pretty good experience.
Yeah, so the sails that we've picked for these two boats are really of the highest end that you can get. They're carbon fiber products, and it's part of the Quantum Fusion M range. And like I say, we're very fortunate with Jeff and Sarah that we can go to the very top end of the range, but it isn't necessarily what everyone's budget allows them to get to, and we understand that. So it's really a question of looking after the customer, making sure that they get what they want, and matching that desire with the package that they're looking for. There is a lot of research and development that goes into how the sails are constructed. And I suppose that's one of the beauties of having a company like Quantum, that we are really quite stacked in depth with skill sets that various people bring to the organization. Essentially, in the very simplistic of terms, it's a balance between strength, durability, and a weight ratio. So we're trying to get weight down, but have maximum strength in the sail, and that ultimately allows us to get performance out of the boat. We've actually got Vichingo's J2 sail on there. We just need to do a quick little repair on that. We'll be good to go. That's one of Jeff's new sails. So we're going to pull that out and just take a quick peek of it.
Oh, it's always nice to get new sails. We have quite a few of them. So far I haven't broken any. First time taking a look at this one. That's nice. It's got the tabs so that we can dual purpose, be able to use it, to be able to lash it onto the headstay in case you have a failure or something for a heavier jib. As Eric was talking about, you know, sailing at night, this is a glow-in-the-dark draft stripe. So, you know, you can see this thing with a little bit of moonlight or just very low-level light. You get an idea where the draft is and where you might have to make some changes in lead position, higher tension, etc., things like that. So, another safety requirement. Sarah's gonna really love the fact that, like, today we'll have like 11 sails on board.
And there's Carter, our distribution guy. He does all the processing, gets them all out, and as you can see on the shelves there, that's everything that's ready to go out. And that rack over there is all of our One Design sails ready to go out to clients who need them as well. So let's go on through, and I'll show you upstairs to the shop. This is the service loft. We have the capability to build sails here, but generally speaking, this is where we do service and repairs. We've got a little spinnaker, and it looks like a fairly big Code Zero that's in for a little repair. And then down in the back there, we've got a full canvas section. We can do biminis, dodgers, sail covers, and all your canvas work. So big floor space. Yeah, pretty cool.
That Zero looks like it was from last night.
Yeah.
A lot of the success that the racers will bring is how we train, how we practice. What we put in before always gives you more out on the backside, and that's just sport. You know, you put in time on the training field of any sport. Come game day, it's going to be easier, it's going to be better, and the results are going to fall your way.
Set because let the other people shake out. I mean, it's only the second weekend of Wednesday nights, and there's going to be mistakes by other boats, so we'll just keep it clean. I mean, ideally starboard pole and just heading straight out. They'll probably set us to R2. Cool. And it'll probably just be a long run out, long run back. Cool. Eric, anything?
All
Josh,
good.
Anything?
I'm good.
came on, the pole came out, and the kite literally just trucked the sidewalk.
Yeah, it just went wham. Yeah. So in heavy breeze, especially when doing a symmetrical kite setup, there's a lot of lines going on and a lot of movement around the boat. So it's really critical to have all facets of the boat working in unison. And you know, it's really the first race in this breeze this year with the crew on the boat. So you know, we're kind of knocking the rust off and that sort of thing. So
it was clear that we were underprepared for those conditions in what should be a fairly straightforward maneuver of a jibe, but it went very wrong very quickly, and that was down to us not being practiced in 25 plus knots of wind trying to jibe that spinnaker. So we now know that. We can now move into practicing that, talking the theory through, and then putting it into action. So when it does happen, or if it does happen in any of the races, then we're better prepared and we're able to overcome the challenges and the problems.
This kind of helps us, you know, because in the middle of Lake Michigan, we're going to need to be good at that stuff. So
yeah,
it's good to see it now, you know, under controllable conditions. Like Eric was saying, it's the first time we've seen this kind of breeze with everything on, everybody on this season. You know, you don't learn when it's easy, you learn when it's hard.
Yeah.
So we learned a little today.
Good.
You know, a bad day out here, I'll take it any day versus being at work. So, no, I mean, it was fantastic conditions, and you know, this stuff happens, and it's just about how do you respond. And you know, we had an unfortunate, you know, halyard situation, but you know, the fact is that we were able to recover and fight back to the end. So that's the beauty of the sport. It's never over till you cross the finish line. So
it's important that we understand where our limits are, and we've got to sail within those limitations, because getting that side of things wrong and trying to do something that we're not fully prepared to do can be detrimental to what you're trying to do on the race course. So there's a balance between trying to push when you can push, play to your strengths, and then there's another time when you've got to recognize that there's got to be keeping things simple, a little foot off the gas a little bit, preserve the crew, preserve the boat. And when you do that, the rewards kind of just happen to happen.
Takeaways, you know what? Just keep on going, man. You have a roundup or something like that, is just clean up, keep on going, and keep on pressing, and never give up. You never give up, and you claw back, and then at the end of the day, you get back to a second, and that's a keeper. Anyway you look at it.
The first thing I'll start with is that the correct sail for those conditions will be coming with us on the Chicago.
Yes.
No, I mean, the Mac will potentially offer up those kind of conditions. I've done them before where that will happen in the middle of the night. You know, it'll blow up and we could get thunder, lightning, and we could be caught in those kind of conditions. So the training program will need to get ramped up, and we'll need to be able to practice those kind of heavy air jibe maneuvers, because again, with the Chicago Mac, if we can stick to run line with a symmetric kite just like that one, it's going to be good for us. So there'll be some training going into that. But you know, I think on the positives, we got away with one there a little bit. We've still got a kite intact, a few bruised egos perhaps, but you know, and like Ray was saying out on the water there, it's important to not give it up, because the grind back when we were going upwind, you know, that's an attaboy to everybody. We've got back, and I think we've saved something there, and we've probably come out of that race with a second place, which is a pretty good result, given what we were dealing with halfway down that run. So, you know, silver linings are there, but a lot of work to do on the crew and the crew setup and maneuvers in heavy air. Cut.
And he's the director too.
But one of the biggest dynamics about any of these races, or any race, distance-wise or any other, this is a team sport. It's not common, really, for any boat to be sailed very short-handed, single-handed or double-handed. That happens, but it's really the minority in that case. And certainly as we apply this adventure, the team dynamic is very important. You can have a really strong set of sailing people, but do they gel? You know, so we've tried to develop that, that we've got a very strong sailing group, but we've got a group of people who get along very well, and we've got some characters within that group, and character is important.
We scored a first, so that always that always feels pretty good, and that kind of leaves us in a strong position in the series that we've been doing here.
You know, tonight, things that I really liked out there, we had great sail trim on the boat. We had a fantastic set. We had a great douse. We had challenging conditions with breeze and then some lulls. We had a lot of boats in our class. We started with about 12 or 13 boats. By the first mark of the race, we were ahead of everybody, and we stayed that way. No one else got in front of us, which was great. You know, all together, you know, the crew on the boat worked really well, great communication, and I'm very happy with tonight.
Everyone's kind of falling nicely into their roles, into their positions. The communication was definitely on point today. Everybody really just fell into their place, felt a lot more natural. You know, this was our last chance before the race to really get out there and see what we can do together as a team. So everyone's celebrating right now. This last little bit of practice. It's Mark's birthday today, so we're amped up about that. So they're cracking a few beers behind me, and it just felt really good.
Great crew, nothing like get a W on your birthday. They did all the work. I just smiled for my birthday. Cheers.
I mean, last week built up this week.
We kept the keel wet the whole time today, and the spinnaker pull dry. So life is good. It sets us up well. Confident, pretty happy. The boat setup is great. So it's just a question of putting it all together on the day. But confidence is high. Morale is good. I don't know if you can see them in the background. They're all having a couple of beers and enjoying themselves, you know. And that's a big part of it as well. So onwards and upwards, and hopefully we'll get the job done.
So it's the first time we've had the group together. So we've got pretty nice conditions for it, not a lot of wind. I'm just checking over the J1 here, which is the lightest head sail that we have. Yeah, it should be fun. Like I say, first time all of us have been together. Some of us have sailed the boat, some of us have never been on it, so Jeff's letting us loose.
We're here. Practice day. First, I want to thank everybody for coming down, everybody who is being part of this crew doing the Annapolis and Newport. Really excited to have such a great group of talented sailors. So today, a couple things. I'm going to just go over a few things. You can ask questions along the way, and then you always have really good rigging ideas. So as we do things, if we need to make some changes and things or modify things, you know, let's just figure it out as a team. Everybody's got plenty of experience.
We're also going to be doing a man overboard drill and some other things that are required by the race committee, the safety requirements that we have to sign the whole crew off on.
So the rules governing the safety regulations, you know, have evolved from incidents that have happened, lessons learned from other races. You know, the Mac race is known for its wild weather, and there's been years where there's been entire fleets that have just been wiped out. There's been capsizes, there's been unfortunate deaths. You know, we're going to be going through and evaluating the safety gear and equipment on both boats to make sure that we're meeting all the regulations for the specific races. Making sure we've got you know, proficient training for the crew on how to use that equipment, knowledge on where that equipment is located on the boat, and really talking through how we're going to act in certain situations if we find ourselves you know, at a hard place.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago in the Chicago Mac, there was a big lightning storm that came through on the first night. And it led to a man overboard. It's ultimately the worst thing that can happen. So you don't look for it, you don't want it, you don't want it to happen to anybody else, but it's a reality of the sport that we participate in. And the biggest defense to that is your own personal equipment, using that whilst you're on board the boat in the correct manner. And if the worst happens, that side of training kicks in as well, whether it's your boat or whether it's going to assist another boat. And you know, I'm a big advocate of it, and it's a big part of our learning process and keeping up to date with techniques and equipment that's out there. So we have the best equipment on board, both personal and for the boat. Fingers crossed we don't have to use it.
So out of a couple things, we'll either, you know, could drop this down and be able to pull somebody out on a ladder here. We could do, you know, an elevator on the side. One of those, any of those I like. I figure we have enough strong people we can yank somebody out of the water too, especially if it's me.
Everybody knows
the key is stay on board, right? Always go forward on the high side is kind of my thing, but I don't, you know, you guys have more experience than I do.
Not to interrupt, but everybody knows the procedure if someone does go overboard. Whoever is the person that sees that person go overboard, you do not take your eyes off that person, period. And you point at them the entire time.
And never take your eye.
And everybody returns to their designated stations.
So if you've never been over, and Andrew has been over as well, lesson that I learned was that we had a new guy that came in on the boat. He was doing the offset trimming, so he had the guy, I was doing bow, and he had an override. And I was up cleaning up the bow of the jib, and when he freed the override, there was no backup, and the pole came flying forward, hit me, sent me flying off the boat. One thing that you never know is the boat's going like 7 miles an hour and it looks like it's doing 50. The first thing. Second thing is, always if you go over the side, if you think about it, when you come to the surface, brake with your hand, not your head. Because a lot of people go over the side and they're fine, but they rush to the surface and they hit their head on the bottom of the boat. So brake with your hand, and then if you can give a thumbs up and say you're okay, particularly daytime, just so the crew knows you're all right, is an important factor to take in. So.
To add to that, I was a designated diver on Wizard. We did Transpac, and I dove twice during the race to get rope off of it. And when the boats even slow down, when they know you're getting off the boat to dive the boat, 2 knots of boat speed, you can't swim that, not in waves. So, and that's me being alive trying to get back on the boat. So if someone's unconscious trying to get back on the boat, it's extremely hard.
Yep.
one of the most important parts of practice days and days like today is being able to go out and put the crew on the boat and, you know, stress things a little bit, see what's working, what isn't.
All electric winches, which is super nice, but we're not going to use those today because in the ocean we're probably not going to use them. You know, just waste power. But let me tell you, they're super nice. Once you use them, you never go back.
Jeff's the only one that's authorized to use them.
Hey, I was on an all-pro crew down in Mexico, and we had electric winches, and nobody even knew where a winch handle was.
Didn't need it.
Well, it's always good to have a couple of beers after a bit of sailing, a bit of sun, probably bright red. But yeah, the guys like to let off a bit of steam here right now. And it's good that David Walters guys, Josh and Eric, they're laying on a little barbecue, some hot dogs, burgers and stuff like that. So a few beers, we'll enjoy the evening and then get back to work tomorrow.
A great part of being a team is that we have fun outside of sailing, and that's why we're here today. We're having a little bit of a cookout. We just did a big practice run. We did a lot of maneuvers with the boat. We took the storm sails up. We did a lot of electronics calibrations, and now we're just going to relax, have a good time. And we're all friends outside of sailing as well. We did a lot of personal activities together, so it's just great to have, you know, the group together, you know, have a barbecue.
Got to keep the crew fed, man. That's like 90% of racing is just making sure everyone's fed well. We're gonna do a little cookout here. We got some brats, some dogs, hamburgers, and one gourmet veggie burger. Just having that close degree of camaraderie amongst the crew is really essential. I mean, you know, it's one of these things that even all the time in the water just can't replace just a good dynamic between the crew. You've got to have the ability to kind of know what the other one's thinking. You got to know them on a personal level, so you can know their sort of their individual cues. You know, you can really get a sense for when somebody's kind of at their max. You know, these distance races, a lot of it is endurance. And so knowing when somebody's starting to feel fatigue and maybe not quite their own, I mean, you got to be able to identify those things. And just being tight as a crew is probably one of the best ways to kind of have a sense for, you know, who each other is even on the race course. Eric? Where's your first place? Where's your first place at?
It's sitting on the mantle.
Of course.
What is that? What is that?
Well, so Frostbite Series is it's a set of races we do in the off season in the wintertime here in Annapolis, and we don't race with spinnakers. So it's just main and jib, and we go out with the guys. So we had John and Andrew and myself, and Jeff joined us a little bit. Ted joined us as well. Ray. Josh for a couple. Ray, Mark. You know, just a good group of friends and guys out there just having fun. You know, went out there, had a great time, and yeah, last year we won the whole thing.
Is that the first one? What's the second place? Who got second? Is that you, Josh?
I mean, naturally. If there's one person we do have to thank for all of this being possible, it's got to be Andrew. Because Andrew, you not only had the idea to make this whole expedition happen, you really were integral in bringing this whole group together. So your support through it all, I mean, not only just for the races, but for the whole Italia program, David Walters Yachts and everything. Dude, that's for you. So cheers to Andrew.
Cheers to everybody here. And I'm gonna deflect to what I consider a more important one. And I'm gonna say to Jeff, Sarah, your family, thanks very much for sharing your boat with us.
and allowing us to have this experience with you. And for that, to the Kennedys.
Yeah,
Cheers.
there you go.
Kennedys.
Yeah.
All right, day's here. I was just joking with Jeff. He says, man, it feels like this has been over a year in the making, and it truly has. So we're all pretty excited. We're just loading gear up, crew's coming in, getting cameras and everything all geared in. Sails are all down below. Crew's getting all settled, picking out their best spots on the boat. So it's been a lot of work getting to this point. A lot of effort's gone into it, and now the day's here, and we got about 2 hours till we're gonna be starting this thing off. So we're excited.
I am very excited. I think it's going to be good. The forecast looks great. I think we couldn't have asked for better weather, especially sailing today versus yesterday. So it doesn't look like there's any rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. So we're good to go.
I think we're going to put the pedal to the metal and not let up till we get to Newport. About time, showtime. It's like a long journey with a long list of things to do, and finally here, so just super excited to get this thing going. I think everybody on board is completely psyched. I don't know what to say. Good weather, good people, good boat. It's gonna be fun.
Plan is, we're gonna go that way, we're gonna turn left again, and end up way over there.
It's looking a little challenging to get down the bay, but I think that's where the race is going to be. So we've got to push hard into the night, and there's a potential for a little bit more build than we were anticipating the other day. All the forecasts have typically come together, so it's looking quite good. It should be a great race, great team.
Couple of hours into the race now. We had a good start, got off the start line clean. That was what was important to us. Managed to get away. It's been some funny shifts. We got out off to the eastern shore by Blood Point, and then took a hitch back over to the west, which didn't really work out. We hit some adverse current, so we've worked our way back over to the eastern shore now. We're right by Poplar Island, but a couple of hours in, so far so good, no issues.
So we had a great start for Annapolis and Newport. You know, the 1398 was doing fantastic. It was an upwind start, so we had a jib going in the main. Whole crew on a rail, beautiful day.
We knew that that first day was going to be very important. We knew that we wanted to get ourselves established in the front group, and I thought we did that reasonably well.
Kind of a light southerly at the start. We were, basically 120 miles into the wind, upwind the whole way down. Very tight competition, crossing tacks with running tide and the other boats. It was a great way to start the race.
We were keeping up with a lot of the faster boats in the ORC class. Far 40s, which are just one design racing boats with very, very Spartan interiors. Some J boats, some of the other larger boats out there. So it's good to see us in company out there, especially the Far 40s as we came through the end of the first day. We're definitely giving us some looks because we were in an attacking duel with them, and they're looking over us with a teak deck and serving dinner on the rail and hot food and that kind of thing. And it was really just a sight to see them looking over at us like, oh wow, they're up here playing with us. Pretty amazing.
As the evening came along, we'd made up some really good ground on a couple of the boats that punched out in front. We actually got past them. A couple of the rivals that we sort of focused on as being benchmarks for us, at least to see how well we were doing, and we managed to get past them. So we felt pretty comfortable going into the first night. But as the evening came along, we got a little fixated. I felt that the eastern shore wasn't as favorable as we thought it might be, but we dug in pretty deep. And at around about 10 or 11 o'clock on that first night, we lost a little bit of ground.
definitely slowed down a little bit there.
Yeah.
It isn't the end of the world. We've got a long way to go, but it was a good reality check. You know, we've got to keep sailing our own race and doing what we feel is best and not get too sucked into what the rest of the guys were doing. So we had a little powwow about that. I think specifically myself and Jeff spoke about it, and we decided that the best thing for us to do was sail our own race and focus upon that.
Right now it's 5 in the morning. We've passed the incoming ship traffic to Baltimore, and now we're just dealing with some anchored ships. The breeze is lightened up a little bit. It's blowing about 9 knots right now, which is to be expected as the sun comes up. We're about 16 miles from the Bay Bridge Tunnel, and we've made up a lot of ground. A bit earlier in the evening, we were a little bit behind some people. We've caught up to them and actually passed some people, so we're in a really good spot now for exiting the bay and getting out into the ocean.
I was getting down around Cape Charles, which is a large anchorage in the southern part of the bay. So as we get down around that area, we actually had to do some maneuvering to get around some ships that were anchored. The channel there gets very, very thin, so there were ships moving in and out, and then also a lot of ships there to anchor. So we had a great time passing by one ship, probably within 6 boat lengths, all lit up. It was anchored there. It was a really cool sight to see. And the breeze has started getting a bit lighter. Coming down towards the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, the Bay Bridge Tunnel spans the entire mouth of the bay. It's 20-some miles across right there. And the bridge crosses most of it above the water, and it only dips down in a couple of spots in some channels there. And the entire fleet has to go between one of these channels. So the fleet is now spread out across 20 miles of Chesapeake Bay, now has to all recondense into this point.
We had a bit of a shocker this morning. It's hard to really explain how we got to it, but very early this morning at sunrise, I think I was saying that we were in a great spot, and we were. And we just missed a couple of shifts, and a couple of the competitors got out of the bay pretty clean, and we got out pretty messy.
We were right at the bottom of the bay at that point, and we knew that that was a difficult section of the race. And we, for whatever the reason, we wanted to stay on that eastern shore even more, and it was a mistake, and we shouldn't have done it. And whatever the reasons were that we did it, we had laid our bed, and it was a bad one. We parked up about a mile or two from the bay exit, and it took us hours to get out of there.
You know, obviously could have done that better, but that's yacht racing. You know, you've got to make a decision based on, I mean, gut instinct's a huge part of it. The conditions that you see right now, the conditions you think are going to be happening a little bit. You know, the forecast said there was going to be more breeze in an hour. It didn't happen. You know, we knew the current was going to start going out. You know, it's a numbers game, it's gut instinct, it's experience. You know, you got to be able to pick your battles here and there. But, you know, we decided we'd do that. Okay, you know, in hindsight, if we had to make the same decision, you know, would we make the other one? I don't know. You know, you got to use what's at your fingertips.
It was frustrating, especially after all of the hard work that we'd done through the night and all the good stuff that we'd done to kind of end up in that spot was tough to take, and it's not really demoralizing because, again, you've still got lots of time, but you know it's a key point of the race, and 2 of your competitors or 3 of your competitors have escaped the bay, and they're gone, and you're sitting still, completely parked up. In 1 hour, they're 6 miles in front when they were behind you, you know, a couple of hours before.
So we're out of the Chesapeake Bay. Took a long time. Wind was light, shifty. It was brutal, but we're out, heading to Chesapeake Light now. Still very light winds. We have about 5.5 knots of wind.
Real quick rundown of the plan.
the plan? Plan is to catch up. The positive side of things is that as this breeze is freshening, you've got to be fairly pragmatic. Boats are quite far in front of us, but in terms of time, when we all turn the corner and start rumbling along at 8, 9, 10 knots, you know, the time of it becomes a little bit condensed. So we've got a busy afternoon to work hard and sail the boat well, and then another hectic night this evening and just continue to press. You know, it just is never over, and we're still in the hunt. We're certainly in the hunt for a podium, so if we sail well, you know, hopefully we can get to that.
We bore away on the Chesapeake Light right there, and we hoisted the A2 spinnaker. A2 spinnaker is the largest spinnaker we have on the boat. It's a runner, so it's a sail designed to go downwind, almost straight downwind, and just, you know, keep the boat moving as fast as possible on that point of breeze.
And off we trundled up north, feeling really good. You know, it was very much a procession up the eastern shore. We had boats around us, and that we were able to gauge our own performance, and we were doing great.
That next morning is when things started to get very interesting. It got foggy. And by foggy, I mean you couldn't see things more than maybe half a mile away from the boat. We couldn't see other boats. Once in a while, we saw, you know, a sail come out of the mist or whatever. It's something that happens this time of year. We didn't expect it to last for this amount of time, though.
I mean, it was the thickest fog you could imagine. I mean, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of the bow. And, you know, at one point we'd catch like glimpses of a boat on the fog, and then they disappear, and it was kind of a surreal and eerie experience.
With the fog, you're really conscious of fishing boats and everything else that's sitting out there.
I mean, on more than one occasion, you know, we'd be screaming along, and we'd get a quick AIS target up, and crap, they're like literally right over our shoulder screaming at us. And there was more than one occasion we had to scramble up and get out of the way of some fishing boats who just, they didn't care. They're gonna plow us over. So Eric definitely had to be sharp on the navigation, keeping an eye on AIS in that fog.
Hey. Hello. So we're on our way to the grand finish. We've got about 82 nautical miles left to the finish, and it is a drag race. We have the FARs, we've got the J133, XP44, I think, and then the mystery running tide somewhere out there ahead of us. It's going to be a photo finish.
So coming into the final night, as we were approaching Block Island, it's notorious. It really is the third part of the race. You're so close to finishing, but so many different things can happen. You've got tidal currents to consider. You've got the wind, which was building at the time. You've got when to kind of turn left to go towards the finish. And you see boats around you, not visibly, because we still had this fog with us. You couldn't see them, but you can see them on AIS. And you know, the people start making their move, right? So you see a boat behind you, and he jibes and he moves off to the left, and you think, oh, should we go? Should we stand on?
We're going to become, you know, we have been getting headed. We just started getting headed here.
What's on over there?
We're still on a heading at 60, 67.
So what's the wind number?
215.
Right. So it's back up.
Maybe 20 miles from Block Island, we were on Rumline, and we were starting to have some really serious discussions on where do we go to make this work, because we could see other boats had gotten closer to Block and had slowed down a lot. We could see boats that were way far east that were going a bit faster, but we knew it would take much more distance to get that far. Our VMG, our velocity may go to be so much lower, we would probably lose ground, especially on the guys inside of us if they got a vein of pressure.
So we just got to sail this course, and we sail.
And Sango straight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good. 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 What we got for traffic on the?
Oh, there's a shitload of traffic all over the west right now. There's like 10 boats all around us. Well, it's going to give me their distance. You know, it's going to be basically the cross in the middle of them. They're 3.5 to 4 miles away, and we're just hitting the third needle.
Right.
Okay. So I'm just going to yell it up and say, "Hey, this is what's going on."
Yeah.
So we were sort of putting in a couple of jibes, working towards Block Island, and it wasn't really working out. It was probably around about midnight on that last night. We decided to break away from the group again, and we went pretty hard right on the race course. So we did that. We kind of trundled off on starboard jibe there for another hour or so, maybe a little bit longer. We got some good separation. So we were doing probably around about 10 knots, I guess. So we've got some good separation from the rest of the group. And by the time we jibed, it clearly had paid off.
Nice job, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Nice job. Teddy, well done, man. Nice job, bud. Congratulations. Nice job.
Getting third place in the first race with Artemis offshore is exciting. I mean, it's always nice to be on the podium. And it was tight. I mean, if you look at the results, I mean, just a few minutes here and there, it could have changed our position to be 4th, 5th, or 6th. So, I mean, it's amazing when you have a race that lasts 2.5 days and boats are within minutes of each other or seconds of each other. There's some classes, top 3 boats were only 45 seconds apart. I mean, that's nuts, you know? You just figured, oh, I messed up 2 tacks, or I shouldn't have done that, and it cost some of those guys, first place.
We were leading the fleet, we were in the back of the fleet, and then clawing our way back to a podium finish. I mean, it felt good, It wasn't a first place finish, but it was a well fought for podium, and it was a lot of fun to do. The lure of the Great Lakes for the Chicago to Mac race is just, it brings people out of the woodwork. And I think if you go down, you actually see the starting line. There's some boats that, I swear the first time they have untied from the dock the entire season is to get to Chicago to go do this race.
Chicago to Mackinac. I've always knew about this race, have heard about it. Several people from Annapolis I know have done that race a few times. It's something that I knew was a huge race. I knew it was going to be something special.
It's such an amazing spectacle. To the guys of Chicago, this race, it's a culture. It's almost like a living, breathing thing. These guys from Chicago, it is special, and it was great to be a part of that. We'd had a really good lead up, couple of days out there before. The transportation of the boat went well. Pat got the boat reassembled really well. When we turned up, the boat was in really good condition.
Andrew, any final thoughts?
Game time.
Game time.
Bring it. Go and do this thing. We're ready.
just the festivities around it all, the anticipation, you know. And then the Great Lakes, you've got a sailing season that's like a few months long. So this is the big event for everybody on the Great Lakes. And so to just see the energy of it all was pretty cool. Start of the race, it was just perfect. I think we had like 12 knots of breeze, great condition, good weather, and you know, we really rocked the start.
Ray started the boat and just nailed it. You know, got first off the line. A couple of minutes into the race, hit a shift and tacked on it. Crossed the fleet on port pretty comfortably, and all afternoon just literally chomped our way north. The boat was flying.
Big one!
You know, from that point on through the rest of the first day, you know, the 998, just like the rest of the Italia Yachts brands, models just, you know, crushed it upwind. We're feathering through the waves just as we should. The boat's fully in trim. We've got a nice brand new Quantum Sails jib up. We had that was literally made at the last minute. We actually had to have them made in the US at the last minute, and thankfully we were able to pull all the stops, and Quantum made it happen for us to get these new sails in order to do this race and compete well with it. So we were going up there, and I was looking on the tracker as we were still in, you know, cell phone coverage, and I'm looking, and it's like, wow, we're not even crushing it. We're in like first overall for the trophy right now. I have like 98 boats in our trophy section. You know, there's a couple hundred boats, but we're separated into two different trophy sections. There's like 98 or 100 boats in our section. We're first overall. Look at the tracker. We're like in the lead, boat for boat. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we're doing so freaking well.
But sailboat racing is one of those things that it punishes you if you get it wrong. And on that sort of second morning, it was very, very, very light. It was almost like we'd expected. There was the sort of restart. Some of the people in our class hadn't really caught up, but they just kind of compressed together and we could see them, whereas we hadn't really been able to do that before.
Breeze had really just shut down. Rambo's range 0.7, SOG 0.5. That's what I want to see. It was a beautiful morning. It was cool. The water was beautiful. You could see, 50 feet through the water, just incredible. You could see boats all around us. And we just started playing the game of trying to find veins of pressure.
DOS spoot 005, speed 4.7.
Yeah.
Nice pressure right there.
You're going 2.3.
It was a game of cat and mouse. Who was going to get that jump and who was going to escape?
So it's just a little after 11 on Sunday Eastern time. We're sitting here battling some light stuff, just working our butts off trying to get through it. Got this beautiful new reacher sail that Andrew, I think, built with his own two hands, or at least that's what the rumor is. And we're just trying to keep the boat moving until the good stuff gets here right after lunchtime. So nice to spend time on the low side in the shade and try to tell as many bad jokes as we can and get us to the breeze.
Once again, we felt we put ourselves in a good position, and we did. We escaped. And I think we got a jump on everybody, and going through that afternoon, once again, felt really good.
And like I said, we made a lot of good decisions, but we made one that really sucked us into a hole. And that's racing, you know. Very rare do you have a flawless race, and there's always one road bump, and we hit it.
I was chatting to Ray, and we discussed that whilst we didn't want to get too far inshore, we felt pretty cool about the heading that we were on, and we laid a plan down. I don't think it was 30 minutes later, the weirdest thing happened. It was like, bang, and we hit a wall. And literally, we went from probably doing 6 knots to doing 0.
Breeze just stopped. And it wasn't like the breeze slowly dropped off. It just stopped entirely. And it was like we hit a wall. And the boat just slowed down to 0.0. I mean, the paddle wasn't even turning.
The sails were just hanging flat. And to add insult to injury, boats are just screaming past us at 6, 7 knots. We were just in a hole.
It took the boys their entire shift, best part of 3 hours, just to get us back probably a couple of 100 yards. That's how much it was. And to go literally from a really, really strong position to, I'm not kidding, 17 and 20 miles behind. And it's just a shocker.
We finally got back in the breeze and we realized, oh my God, we're like in 13th place, 12th place in our class. It's like, what do we do? You know, we're so far back now, you know, and there's such light breeze, how do we get back in front?
We had to come up with a fairly bold strategy, but didn't want to just roll the dice. So we put the heads together and we determined that we actually now, at this point, we wanted to get to be kind of cross sides completely and get to be the furthest left. And we were going to do it at a price of mileage, but at a reward of boat speed.
You could see the south end of the Manitus, the first island. You could see all the boats. Everyone was stopped. You could still see the TP-52s, these fast boats that should be gone. You could see them dying inshore. There were 5 or 6 of them just clustered in there, and they were parked. So it was like, you know, it dawned on us, like, wait a minute, okay, the shore is lava, stay away from the land. And we're thinking, a lot of us, except for 2 people on the boat, are Chesapeake Bay sailors. Our thought process of being away from land is like a mile. Okay, Lake Michigan's like 80 miles across. It's gonna take more distance to get you away from that hot, especially those sand dunes, they're hot, they retain their heat, the breeze dies over there. You gotta get further into the cooler water. So that's what we did.
To try to put it into some kind of perspective, we lost sort of 20 miles and we had about 24 hours left of sailing to try and make up 20 miles. Now, if you try to do the math in your head on that kind of thing, if someone's doing 5 knots, we need to be doing 6. That means we've got to be sailing 20% faster than them. It's a massive, massive undertaking, and we knew it. But no one put their head down. Everyone just kind of accepted what we had. We were disappointed. There's no question about that. But you know, it wasn't over, and we were gonna put together as much as best we could. We were gonna put together a comeback. But we set out our plan and it was working. And again, wind came up, spirits started to rise again. We now started passing boats.
We basically just end-rounded our entire class almost.
All right, day 3 of the Chicago Mac. We are, I don't know, how far are we from the finish?
6,000 miles!
6,000 miles now, 60 miles.
We are
and
650,000 feet from the start.
we made after the last update, we just made a remarkable comeback with of just taking a look at what the fleet was doing and working hard all day.
And we've made up some incredible ground. We came from the bottom of the class. Now I believe we're in the 4th position in the class. We have 3 boats in front of us, and the breeze is supposed to build, so we should be able to catch up with those guys. But in good spirits, having fun.
There's this mark that means a lot to many people on the Great Lakes. It's a buoy where, as you pass every year, a lot of people give condolences and thanks to past sailors, loved ones that are no longer with us. Normally, you would pour out a shot of rum as you pass by as remembrance. We didn't have that. What we did have, some crew members had brought along some hats with U, EWE on them. And that signifies someone that's very well known in the racing community, sailing community, and a local to Annapolis, Jeff Ewenson, who passed suddenly this past year. And it was something that really affected the sailing community. He was someone that was really a proponent of sport, of sportsmanship, of going after and helping anybody in need in sailing and in other parts of life, and someone that meant a lot to a lot of people. And so the whole crew signed the hat. And as we passed the mark, passed as close as we could without hitting the mark, and dropped the hat on it. It was a great moment to see, to experience that, to take part in that kind of tradition on the Great Lakes. And at that point, I guess the wind gods kind of favored us a little bit. The breeze built up to about 13 to 14. The boat was doing 9 to 10 knots of boat speed. She was just humming.
We'd felt good about the last day. We felt we'd sailed the boat well. We felt we really executed the plan and stuck together as a group. Unfortunately, 3 boats finished in front of us, and we finished 4th. Little disappointing in that aspect, because we had a quick boat, we had a great crew, we had really solid settings on the boat. Literally one bloody wind hole took us out of the Chicago to Mac race.
In terms of just how you feel about that race, we felt really good at the end of it, because we knew we sailed the boat as best as we could. Sure, we made a fatal mistake by getting stuck in a no breeze zone, but we sailed that boat to its limits, and we're very satisfied with even a 4th place finish, because we knew how hard it was fought. We're gathered here. It's our end of the season party. We've got the crew from Artemis and Vichingo together, kind of having a couple of beers, talking about how the races went. More than anything, just kind of kicking back and having fun, and looking back on all the memories we made doing these 2 races. It was an amazing season. We all had a great time. The boats did phenomenal. We had 2 incredible races we're really proud of. And now it's time to kind of reflect on all that and set our sights on what we're going to be doing next year.
When we started this idea, it becomes very quickly how important the people that you're doing this with are. It is all about the people, both when you're ashore and when you're on the water. And we had some characters. We talk a lot about the sailing and the racing and the strategies and what we were doing, but the personalities that come out of individuals on these races, it can't be understated. I'm not sure what happens to people, but singing on the rail at 2 o'clock in the morning, I promise you, we had a lot of giggles, a lot of good laughs. There were a lot of moments, there were a lot of things said. It's hard to describe it, but I loved sailing with all of these guys, every single one of them. They all contributed, and it was an absolute pleasure to be with on the water, and having good times with them off the water as well.
Well,
it was fantastic. It's a great group of people, and I really appreciate David Walters Yachts and Italia putting together this little gathering of crews that have been very successful in the racing season. And you know, this is a great way to kind of put a cap on it for the summer. So we're delighted to be here, and beautiful weather, great people, and a great boat.
So we just completed the little end of season siesta, get the group together, have some fun, have some drinks, and share some good stories. We're about to head back over to the office and have this great brisket that Josh has been baking all day long. And it's a great culmination to the event. We had a nice breeze tonight, beautiful sunset, so couldn't be a better day. And you know, looking forward to getting this all wrapped up this year. And hey, going out again next year and doing it again. You know, we'll have some new boats in the country. We'll have some. We'll have the gang back together. We'll have some new people. It's great to see everything just culminating and how this has all worked out. And you know, really excited about the future it brings.
So at the beginning of this whole thing, I think it was Josh that said, if it's not going to be fun, it's not going to be worthwhile doing it. And looking back at the whole project, the whole putting it together, everything that we have done from start to now coming to the finish, above everything else, it's been fun. And that's the important thing.
Looking back, we had a blast. You know, we're quite happy with how we did, actually. You know, obviously there's room for us to do better. And that sort of leads us to, you know, we'll be back. We'll do it again. I know Jeff's already planning for Bermuda. We're already talking about Chicago to Mac next year, whether that's going to be on the 998 or toying around the idea of an 1198. Who knows?
Your turn.
Here we go.
What's really happened is a group of people who want to do something together has become a group of really close friends, a tight-knit community, and we're all just going to have a really good night, celebrate, and yeah, enjoy it. It's been fabulous, and yeah, let's do it again. Roll on season 2.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out. You know, it's been a hell of a season for everybody. We've had a lot of fun, and I think we did pretty well. A lot of things that we can be proud of, a lot of things to look forward to. We appreciate everybody, you know, kind of putting forth their time and their effort, and joining in with both the crews, both the teams, participating in both the races, the series that you know, we just did pretty well in. First and second place for the Wednesday night series. So you guys really made this whole program what it is, and I just can't say how much we appreciate everything that you guys have done, your hard work through it all, and just personally how awesome it's been to get to know you guys even just that much better throughout this whole season.
And that's a wrap.